On February the 18th, 2021, in Droitwich in Worcestershire, 9-year-old Alfie Steele sadly died after a sadistic and sustained series of abuse by his 35-year-old mother, Carla Scott, and her 41-year-old boyfriend, Dirk Howell. In fact, Alfie was found to have had 50 injuries to his body, which was said to have been inflicted through the use of a leather belt and by submerging him in water. Thankfully, last week, both Scott and Howell were found guilty at Coventry Crown Court. Scott was guilty of manslaughter and Howell of murder, being sentenced to 27 years and at least 32 years respectively. But this report is not about the sentencing of poor Alfie's murderers. This is about West Mercia police, who have now referred themselves to the IOPC over its contact with Alfie's family in the lead up to his death. Following the conviction of both Scott and Howell, Detective Chief Inspector Leighton Harding of West Mercia Police said that contact the force had with the family did not meet the criteria for a referral to the IOPC, and the review had left them satisfied that remained the case. But now it appears as though West Mercia Police were informed of a breach of an order for Howell not to stay at Alfie's home, and at least one neighbour told police how they could hear what sounded like someone being held underwater. But based on the outcome for poor Alfie, it would seem that the police failed to act, or at least failed to act proportionately. During the trial at Coventry Crown Court, prosecutors said that Alfie was subjected to a cruel and sinister regime of correction by Scott and Howell at his home prior to his death in February 2021. In court last month, Michelle Healy KC prosecuting said he didn't die of natural causes. He had bruises all over his body and signs that he had been deprived of oxygen. The prosecution case is that these defendants are responsible for his unlawful death. Since Detective Chief Inspector Leighton Harding's comment outside of the court following the sentencing, the IOPC have now said that the force are now referring their prior contact to us so that we can assess whether any further action needs to be taken by the IOPC. Now, Alfie was on the radar of police and social services for some time. Carla Scott's neighbours in Droitwich said Alfie's death was avoidable as they slammed social workers and police for failing to intervene sooner, with one calling for a public inquiry into the failings. One neighbour who reported seeing Alfie being screamed at by Howell in the garden said, "All of us living in the houses that back onto their garden reported it to the police. We reported the defendants to the police, social services, the school where Alfie went, and even the housing association, but nothing was done. On one occasion we saw a police officer in one of the upstairs windows looking out at the garden, so we knew the police had gone in. They must have seen the conditions they were living in. The house was always shut up, the windows closed and the curtains drawn. It makes you think now what was going on." During the trial, it was heard how Howell repeatedly flouted a requirement from social services that he did not stay overnight at the property. In fact, he was at the house when Alfie died, but he ran away when police arrived. Jurors heard how Howell was alleged to have picked Alfie up and thrown him into the bath after repeatedly beating him. In fact, the jurors of the trial were told by the judge that what they had to listen to and endure about poor Alfie's life and death would mean they would never have to sit on another jury again due to the harrowing nature of abuse. Even the school was aware of something, as it was noted that Alfie was constantly hungry when at school. A chance to save Alfie was missed 11 months before his death, when discussions took place on whether or not to remove him from Scott's care. But because the mother was seen to be working with social workers at the time, it was deemed the situation did not cross the threshold for removal. Around 6 months before Alfie was murdered, a neighbour called police, reporting thrashing sounds coming from the bathroom. She said, "It sounds like my neighbours are doing something bad to their kid in the bath, like they're really hurting him." On another occasion, a neighbour saw Alfie outside in just his boxer shorts, where he was ordered to stand still like a soldier, and on another occasion Alfie was seen mopping a floor at 4:30 a.m. Just months before, another neighbour had called police at 5:30 a.m. after hearing banging and crashing coming from the house, and the whimpering boy pleading for up to half an hour to be let in. Now, police apparently did attend this incident, but they say they found Alfie asleep in his bed. Now, there is so much more to this story, which will turn this into a very long video, so I have linked below in the description some articles that give much more information. But if you are inclined to get upset reading about children being abused, then I recommend that you don't read them. It appears that along with the IOPC looking into whether West Mercia Police's contact with the family should have been referred to them, a multi-agency review is underway to see if there were other missed opportunities by other organisations. I think I can safely say that there probably will be some apologies for all that's worth, as sadly this seems to be happening far too often. Alfie was sadly just one of several child deaths throughout the lockdown period, which included Arthur Labinio Hughes, Finley Bowden, Logan Mwangi and Star Hobson. What's so sickening about this is that the police claim that throughout lockdown crimes were down, but they were clearly too busy doing something else to look into the safety of these poor children, which, by all accounts, multiple police forces were aware of claims of abuse, but waited until the kids were dead before taking any action. I'll keep an eye on this and see what the IOPC have to say and bring you further updates in future reports.